Third time's a charm, maybe. Let's see if this works. My Twitter is being weird and the stand thing for my phone kept falling over. So let's try it one more time. My friend just called me a whole bunch of terrible shit because of the fact that I'm super anti-intervention. And I'm really, really annoyed to the point where I'm doing an entire video to subtweet them. So because they acted like such a petulant little child, I am gonna bring my political stance down to about a 4th grade or 4-year-old level and read my favorite children's book, War and Peace. I bought this for my daughter when I was pregnant and I've been reading it to her ever since, and she's 7 now. So yeah, here we go. War and Peace. I hope that he sees this. There is usually no need to quarrel and fight, so why do we sometimes? Perhaps we just want something that we can't have, or we disagree about something, or we don't trust someone. Maybe we just got out of bed on the wrong side. Or it might be somebody else's fault. They started it. We'll probably think so, or say so anyway. There are families who almost never disagree. If they do, they discuss calmly. They listen to each other's point of view. They try and understand. In the end, they reach a decision which pleases everyone. They don't fall out, and if they do, they quickly make up because they respect and love each other. But even families who argue all the time usually stand together when the family is threatened by like a shitty neighbor. It is the same with groups of people. People who work together or play together or share common interests or opinions unite against rival groups. But when a bigger cause comes along, they'll unite with their rivals against the common foe. Sports teams. It's the same story with political parties and with nations. People rally to support their leaders just as each of us think that he or she is right. Families, groups, politicians, and nations think that they are right. When nations quarrel, we stand united behind our flag, our uniform, our beliefs, history, traditions, and culture, and behind our fighting men and women. If we could see the other side, they feel and behave the same way because they are just like us. If we only listen to the other side's point of view, we could often resolve problems and arguments without fighting. If we act in the heat of the moment, it is soon too late to avoid conflict. Injury piles upon injury, insult on insult, lie on lie. Hatred of the foe and pride in ourselves fan the flames. See, they have signs that say like kill the killers and stuff like that. That's right now. Syria. Throughout history, nations have gone to war to acquire possessions, land, and slaves. Some become strong. They build great empires. Victory justified their actions. Entire races were wiped out, and this has gone on right down to the present day. Today, weapons are so devastating that war doesn't make sense. Nobody can win. Soldiers no longer see those they kill or maim at the push of a button. Wars destroy the progress of past generations, bringing their toil and aspirations to nothing. Isn't it crazy? Those are, this is probably the only children's book with drones in it. I love it. Nothing makes a nation sadder than defeat. But even after victory, we sometimes have to accept bitter truths. Looking back, it's easy to see who was right and who was wrong. We know our country made mistakes, especially when wars were fought far from home. Years later, we still feel sad, angry, bitter, and guilty. So why do we make the same mistakes? Why do we go to war so readily? Why do we supply arms to dangerous leaders? Why don't we ask questions at the right time? And yet, as long as there is a danger, each nation has to be prepared. Each of us may have to answer the call. That's the craziest part. We should have learned by now that all people have a right to live the way that they want, as long as they do not threaten the rights of others. It is easy to judge other people's problems when it is our nation's turn to listen, will we? It may take centuries for nations to learn to resolve disputes peacefully. There may need to be a sufficient, I hate this part, I skipped this line because it's really globalist. Powerful nations may cede control of weapons. Weaker nations may agree not to arm. A peacekeeping force will keep enemies apart. They don't really. They kind of suck. The UN. But anyway, it's hard to imagine a world without war. There are 3 ways in which nations may cease to fight each other. One is to unite against a common foe, like an enemy from space. Another is less likely, a change in human nature when people lose the taste for fighting. The third is unthinkable, when we have destroyed each other. Wars produce supreme examples of human sacrifice and heroism, but how many are prepared to be branded a coward for refusing to fight? Who, when fighting in a just cause, will pray for forgiveness instead of victory? Who will forgive the enemy? Who has the courage to question the leaders? It's easier to make war than peace. In a peaceful world, when all nations and people live together, as friends and neighbors and family, we can still be heroes and enjoy triumphant victories over hunger, poverty, and disease. But we can't wait for nations, groups, or families to see sense. It has to start with each one of us. There are more of us than we think. We can convince the others. Let's do something about it now. Let's live in peace. Let's share our world, because war is just plain silly. Then in the back it says, if we want peace, it has to start with each one of us. War is silly. The end. That's my video subtweet for the person who was calling me terrible names for hating war. This children's book, I hope, clears up some of your problems.